Just thought I'd kick the Tupac tribute out with a special tribute to Tupac Shakur with Naughty by Nature's Mourn You Till I Join You. Welcome to episode 334 of Off the Cuff Radio. I'm your host, King Ed the Great, a.k.a. Rick Capo. And we are now tuned in to the special edition of Off the Cuff Radio right here, man. We had to do it for two reasons. Number one, we have a special guest on the line tonight, and I wanted to put some respect on his name from one journalist to another, and another to celebrate the life of probably the most impactful, prolific MCs to ever grace the microphone, Tupac Shakur. And this show here is sponsored by Cocaine's Buddy Boy Entertainment, soon to be Screwball Radio, Dirty Basement Radio, Core Financial, and Jesse's Boutique. So, why are we doing a Sunday night episode right here? Why did I reach out to this guest of the night right here? Because this man right here, he built a platform that's protecting the legacy of Tupac, as well as not only protecting Tupac's legacy, but also giving us information that we never even known about this man. And you could check his resume. Interviews with Badass, rest in peace, Napoleon from the Outlaws, L.T. Hutton, Mike Mosley, Andre Rison, Kenya Ware, DJ King Assassin, Desiree Smith, and many, many more. And he's going to tell you about more when I bring him on the air. So without further ado, let me bring y'all the mastermind behind possibly the best Tupac-related channel on YouTube, Art of DIalouge.
Yo, what's poppin', my man?
What's good? What's going on, man? How you living, my brother?
Just coolin', man. Just coolin', getting to this bag, man.
Appreciate it, man. It's like I had to reach out to you for a good reason, man, because, man, from one journalist to another, you've been on the turf covering anything related to Tupac, and you're doing such a marvelous job to it. So I wanted to put everybody on code with what you've been doing to let people know that his memory is not going in vain.
Right. Yeah, man, I appreciate that, man. And the same thing to you, man. I've been peeping you for a while now. You know, the first interview I seen from you was a few years ago when you did an interview with Coolio. So I've been peeping you out, man. So I love your content as well, my man.
Appreciate it, man. And I also wanted to bring you on, man, because I think people don't understand what we do as content creators. Like, this feels like it's a job. You know what I'm saying? It's work what we do.
Interviews, man, and to get these people on your platform and to do interviews with them, man. It's a lot of work behind the scenes, man. People don't have no ideas. Then you gotta edit the audio, you know. Then you gotta make the thumbnail. You gotta present it in a professional way. So yeah, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, man. So yeah, it's crazy, man.
Okay, now what we gonna do is before we start this off here, man, I'm gonna let the people know. Call number is 1-516-531-9596. If y'all got any exclusive Tupac material that you ain't never heard, let me know. I send you some on the Cash App. That's right. So going into you, man, like let's start about your background in journalism and where you from. Like, where'd you get your start?
Well, as far as me getting my start, man, I think the first interview I did was I can't think of it. Leonard Jefferson, yeah, that's his name. I couldn't think of it for a quick minute right there. But Leonard Jefferson, he's actually the person that took the last picture of Tupac and Suge Knight when they was in the BMW in Las Vegas. So that was my first interview, and I did that. That did crazy numbers. Then my platform pretty much took off. Then from there, you know, I started reaching out to people. You know, I got an interview with Suge Knight baby mom Storm. Then I got an interview with Kenya Ware, Dad's baby mom. Then from there, you know, the views started getting crazy, man. And yeah, man, Andre Rison, then, you know, Mike Mosley, L.T. Hutton, you know, the list goes on. You know, pretty much my platform started getting bigger, and, you know, when you get more and more people on your platform, you know, that makes other people want to come when they see other people on your platform. So, But yeah, man, that's pretty much when I got my start. Was my first interview was with Leonard Jefferson, the person that took the last picture of Tupac in a BMW.
Oh, that's dope. And what made you want to base your channel around Tupac content? Because there's a lot of Tupac-related channels out here. So what was your main focus in trying to get that off the ground and also being different from these other guys?
Pretty much just being a fan, man. You know, I was a big fan of Tupac, and I just wanted to, know more about him behind the scenes. So with that being said, I just thought it was a good idea to, just make a YouTube channel and start conducting interviews with people that was friends with Tupac or they had experience with Tupac, and yeah, man, just me being a fan. And I'll also say the first person I ever heard do interviews in regards to Tupac was J-Mix. So I would definitely shout out him. He was doing interviews about Tupac, and I thought that was dope. So, that definitely, inspired me to a certain extent. But for the most part, the reason why I did, make a YouTube channel, based around Tupac is, I was a Tupac fan, so.
Okay, now, before I bring my co-hosts on, I want to know, what was your favorite Pac records?
As far as songs or album?
Songs.
Well, my favorite Tupac song of all time is Unconditional Love. So, yeah. So I'll give you my top 5. Unconditional Love, Life Goes On, Do for Love, Keep Your Head Up, and I will put Blasphemy in there. Yeah, that would be my top 5. But the number one record is definitely Unconditional Love.
Man, people don't know, man. Like, you know how you got a lot of these critics, especially hip-hop pursuits that try to say that Tupac wasn't really lyrical. They better check Blasphemy, man, because that's one of the, not only the hardest, but most insightful records he ever dropped.
Yeah, man, he was dropping a whole lot of gems on that, man. That's my favorite record on Machiavelli. But, yeah, people that say that, man, I mean, it's more than just lyrics and punchlines and, double entendres and stuff. I mean, you got to, reach the people, man, and you got to touch the people with your lyrics, and that's something that makes Tupac great. The message, the substance, in his lyrics and how he can touch people emotionally. So, I'll pick that any day over somebody that's super lyrical, you know what I mean? So, it is what it is. People going to say what they're going to say.
Yeah, and I think what people don't understand is that when you're making music, it got to hit you in the soul at the end of the day. Like, there's a lot of rappers that said the exact content is Tupac, but he made you feel it.
Yeah, he made you feel it, man. He hits you emotionally, man, with his music, man. I be looking at reactions on YouTube. I don't know if you see it, but it be reactions on YouTube, man. People reacting to Brenda's Got a Baby, Keep Your Head Up, and they start crying, while they looking at the videos. It shows you right there, how his music touches you. That's why I always say I value that more than somebody that's super lyrical that, uses punchlines and triple entendres, double entendres. I value substance over that, man, and touching people emotionally. So,
T-Max, you on, brother?
What's going on, y'all? What's going on? Y'all good? Y'all good?
3 journalists in the building, man. The masterminds of this YouTube hip-hop content game. Leo Colin, cut us some checks right now.
AOD, what it be, man? We're honored and privileged with your presence, man. How you? Hey, what's going on, man? AOD, man. How you, man? It's an honor and a privilege to have you on, man. How you?
Oh, I'm doing good, man. Appreciate you for having me on your platform, man. I appreciate it a lot, man.
Definitely, man. Like Keem said, listening to Pac's music, it's a very, Pac was unlike any artist I think we had ever seen prior to him, and we have yet to see any artist really of his caliber since he's been gone. the name itself just resonates when it just has an ethereal type of vibe. I mean, when you look in terms of his background and reference, to his Black Panther genes, and just, from his artistic side, of course, going to a school, high school for the arts. And I mean, of course, we could go on and on about the man's history in terms of everything, and this is not even before we get to his music. I think the one thing I always had an issue with some people was that nobody really, you got people that say they're fans, but nobody really wants to mention his first two albums to a degree in terms of how great they were. But it's like after all the drama, that seemed to have been when everybody really, of course, when he dropped Me Against the World, of course, All Eyes on Me, that seemed to be when everybody seemed to jump on it. But we can't forget the Thug Life album, of course.
Yeah, underrated album, man. Nobody definitely don't talk about that album.
Dude, when I first heard Cradle to the Grave, I was like, whoa. And I know there's a little bit of history about it. King, you think we could talk about that history of the Thug Life album without getting thrown off the air behind it?
Oh yeah, we good on the strikes right there. They nobody tripping on us right now. It's Sunday, man. They gonna let us eat.
Okay.
Yeah, that was an underrated album, man. I mean, you got songs like Bury Me a G, Prod a Little Liquor, Under Pressure, Street Fame, Cradle to the Grave, Straight Ballin'. Man, that album was underrated, man. Nobody never talks about that album, man. So, yeah, man, shout out to you for bringing it up.
Man, look, and that was actually the album that we got in stores was actually the redid album from the initial one, because the initial one from the history, King hit me to the game on it. I'm gonna let King, tell the fans about it a little bit, our audience, and of course you, please come in as well with any additions you may have. But I heard that initial album was so hard that that couldn't even get put in stores because of some of the content on the first one that they did.
Yeah, and there was another song where he did a song called Peep Game 2 where he was talking about the chick that accused him of rape, and the label didn't want that out there.
Wow, I didn't know that, man. Damn.
It's called Peep Game 2.
Is it out? Did they leak it? Or is it out right now?
Yeah, it leaked like a couple years ago.
Okay. Peep Game 2. Okay. I'm going to check that out then.
Yeah, that give you something to talk about. You might have to upload that on the channel, bro.
Yeah, I'm looking at that right now. Peep Game 2. I'm actually looking at that right now, man. I'm searching that right now. I had no idea. Yeah, I see it right here. Peep Game Part 2, unheard, unreleased. Okay.
Yeah, and the cool part about that album, too, y'all, is he has such great chemistry with Stretch, man. It's just sad that they fell out like they did because them two were like magic together. Man,
rest in peace to Stretch from Live Squad, man.
Yeah, he was a solid rapper, man. Shout out to him, man. R.I.P. He was a solid talent, man.
Definitely, man. So AOD, in terms of, the West Coast, man, what was it like, in terms of how would you say Pop really began to kind of, make his way from the Bay to L.A. in terms of that 90s movement, in terms of really seeing the West Coast come up? Because during that time, we're seeing all of these, of course, NWA kicked it off, really for that side. But then, there's so many other rappers that don't get their due. We're talking about Cam. We're talking about MCA. Of course, Sinister, rest in peace. J.O. Felony. Just a proliferation of so many artists coming around in that time. What was it? How did Pop really fit into that culture in terms of really bringing about that? Really kind of being one of the riders for that new West Coast movement of the 90s.
Oh, let me see if we can bring him back on. You on, brother?
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah.
Re-ask that again. I think I don't know if that was my phone that went out or yours, but re-ask that again if you don't mind.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah. So in terms of the 90s, we saw such a proliferation of a lot of rappers from the West Coast. You know, of course, NWA would kick it off in '88. But I mean, when you're looking at rappers like Cam, King T, Sinister, rest in peace, of course, MC8. You know, when he went solo with it, of course, Ren. You know, with Kiss My Black Ass, which was the first EP to go gold. A lot of people don't know that. That was the first EP to go gold. What was, of course, Richie Rich would come in '96 with Seasoned Veteran, South Central Cartel.
Right.
Shout out to them. How did pop, really fit into that New West movement that was going along at that time in terms of just really beginning to really along with them just really creating that foundation for the West Coast?
He fit well, man. I mean, he was, collabing with people like Spice One, Ice Cube. They was on Strictly for My Niggas, so he was real cool with people from the Bay Area. So, and he had a Bay Area sound at that time when he did Strictly for My Niggas. He was with Digital Underground. So yeah, he definitely fit well, with that whole movement, in the West Coast.
Definitely, and AOD, we can't forget, because a lot of people, because we always big up Pac every chance we get on the show, and also try to give, our listeners trivia as well. And a lot of times people forget that Pac also had an artistic vision as a director with Mac Mall's Ghetto Theme, and a lot of people forget he directed that video.
Yeah, he did direct that. Yeah, he did. Yeah, you're right about that. Yeah. He did direct that album.
Yeah.
That video. A lot of people don't know about that.
Yeah, man. It just, how do you think the game became more enhanced with his presence? How do you think it has changed since he has been gone?
How I think it changed, man. I think for the most part, man, I think people value substance more. I think when I look at rappers like J. Cole, I look at Kendrick Lamar, I look at rappers like that, you can tell they're heavily influenced by Tupac. So I think substance, I think honesty, like people being honest in their music, talking about their life experiences. You had Tupac with Dear Mama telling the whole world that, his mom was on drugs, and stuff like that. And, I think that's the main thing. If I had to say one thing, I think it's probably that. Is the substance and people music and people being more honest in their music. I would say that's probably the main thing that this generation picked up is probably that right there. And probably just being real, man. You got a lot of people like he was very vocal about social injustice and stuff like that in his interviews, and he spoke out about social injustice and racism and stuff like that. And yeah, man, it's a few people out there, right now, that rappers out here that is taking a stand, like a J. Cole. He's out here marching when the whole George Floyd thing happened. Kendrick Lamar as well. So I think stuff like that, man, definitely came from Tupac and his influence and everything. So
yeah, one thing about it
is it goes to show you the power of his music. Because I remember there was a time where nobody really wanted to rock with Pac at all. I remember that specifically. I remember even looking at your channel, and you uploaded this Milwaukee radio station. Oh, go ahead.
Right.
No. You uploaded this video of this Milwaukee radio station when they were dissing him hard. So it was like a reflection of how people were really feeling about him at the time. And I remember even radio stations didn't want to play his music. And keep in mind that this is after Big died, so what they wanted to do, they wanted to just pretty much keep Big out there and kind of, erase Pac out a little bit. But I noticed that when they dropped the Are You Still Down album, Then that came with Do for Love. Then that came with the John B joint. It's like they can't keep his music down. It's too powerful. So do you feel that at first the industry didn't want to really get Pac's music exposed like that?
Yeah, I definitely think that, man. I think the stuff he was talking about in his music, you know, to go back to you know, which I was talking about earlier about Tupac Now and Strictly for My Niggas, you know, he was talking about a lot of stuff in that, man. You know, social injustice, racism, crooked cops and stuff like that. So yeah, I definitely think that, you know, people looked at him as a threat when he was coming out with them albums, and, you know, him shooting the off-duty cops and, you know, stuff like that. Yeah, I definitely think people looked at him as a threat, you know. Even, you know, all the way to 96 to his death, you know, if you look at his interviews, man, he was still very vocal about what was going on. So, yeah, I definitely think people looked at him as a threat and everything. And, yeah, it's funny you brought up that Milwaukee video, man. Yeah, that's the reason why I brought it up. That's the reason why I uploaded it. I mean, I wanted the people to see how people really felt about Tupac, you know, when he was alive. And, yeah, man, that's crazy. If nobody hasn't seen it, man, they definitely need to check it out. Yeah, it was definitely, yeah, they wasn't showing Tupac no love, you know, like right after his death. That was definitely surprising when I heard that.
And we got to talk about this, too. I know you guys remember this. Y'all remember when there was a time where everybody and their mama was just biting off of them? I'm talking about from this period from 2001 to 2003. Yeah,
Master P, C Murder. Ja Rule.
Yeah.
Y'all want to see Pac come back?
Yeah, it was bad, man. It was bad, bro. You had Ja Rule, you had C Murder, you had Master P. Man, you had a lot of people at that time, man.
Nas had the Godson tatted on his stomach.
Yeah, he had. I was just about to bring that up, man. He had the Godson thing on his stomach or whatever. Yeah, man. I mean, and another thing, man, to go back, it's funny you brought that up. Who made their chain first? Because I remember hearing a song on Nas' new album where he said that Tupac was influenced by his QB chain. So who chain was made first? Tupac chain or Nas QB chain?
I remember Nas having a QB chain around the platinum joint. I don't remember him wearing really no jewelry in 96 like that, though.
Yeah, because I remember when I posted that verse, everybody was leaving me a DM saying, like, yo, I mean, it's no pictures or no kind of proof at all of Nas having a QB chain in 96. Most people was telling me, you know, the only proof they can see of Nas with a QB chain, like the earliest they can find of a picture of him with one is 99. So, yeah, I found that pretty weird.
No, because I actually have a couple of magazines. I'll send them to King and I'll send them to you, ALD, because that's a situation where, you know, Nas actually was rocking that QB piece back in 96, 97.
Oh, he was?
Matter of fact, I will tell you
that's news to me.
I will tell you distinctly as a fact that at the very earliest, even though it was 96, you know, even though there, I could say 96, but I will tell you distinctly in 97 with the source cover of The Firm with him, Foxy, and AZ that he had on that QB chain in 97.
Yeah, I remember that.
You know, yeah, but I believe in 96 he had it as well.
But that's the thing, like, how would Tupac know he had that chain? Because they never really seen each other in person. You know, they seen each other at the MTV Awards, you know, a few days before, you know, the Vegas shooting, but it's not really no videos. Or, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. That got me a little confused. Like, how would Tupac know about his QB chain? Or, I don't know. I mean,
it's no
you can probably say there's a level of respect right there. Like, there's always been level of respect in terms of how they get down each other before each other musically. Just like when he put out Being My Girlfriend, that was basically like a salute that I gave you power. You know,
it was.
Yo, that joint had like one of the craziest intros. ALD, you know, there's so many things that people don't understand about Pac in terms of what he stood for from fashion. A lot of people wondered about why he would rock the UNLV gear. And he was like he was a rebel, and that's what he was, in terms of how he got down. And, of course, what you had alluded to earlier with the shooting, where he shot those 2 off-duty police officers, in Atlanta who were harassing that black motorist, the Whitwell brothers, and it turned out in the investigation, they found out those Whitwell brothers, those officers, they had stolen the gun from the evidence room, and it was like it was self-defense, what Pac did. I mean, dog, you got to think about this, y'all. This is in the 90s before social media, and Pac was doing that shit then. Right. I mean, but but I'm gonna tell y'all, King and AOD, what I really missed though in this era, what we had back then. Remember back in the day, it's like all the magazines back in the day, you could get the interviews with these guys. Like, I got I want to say, I got at least 3 Source magazines that they interviewed Pac in. And one of the most famous issues was, I believe, the September 1994 with the Tupac source cover, Trial by Fire. And it was just talking about everything that had been going on, in his life, in terms of, just everything that had been going on, because he had been in a couple of years. And, of course, it was a year after, 2 years after Strictly for My Niggas came out. And this is how I knew this nigga was, really doing it. When I heard about that situation where he was with Madonna, I was like, what? Yeah, they was like, they was kicking in the
I heard a
dressing
lot
room.
of stories about that, man. Oh, my God, bro. I heard so many stories about some of the females Tupac was messing around with in the industry. It's insane, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell him about the latest interview you did about the How Do You Want It girl.
Yeah, man, it was with Angel Kelly, man, and she pretty much told a story about
what?
Yeah, you remember Angel Kelly, the porn star?
Yeah,
Angel
I know
Kelly?
who Angel Kelly is. Yeah. He got Angel too.
Yeah, he piped that down too, man. She told a story about how Tupac had a threesome with her and Heather Hunter at the same time. So he had a threesome with Angel Kelly and Heather Hunter, and he piped down Nina Hartley while her boyfriend was watching.
Lord.
Man, dude, I mean, I tell you one thing though, Nina Hartley loves some brothers though. We can't front.
Right. Yeah, she did. And another thing I would say, because I can't even release the interview, the person I did an interview with. I don't know if y'all checked it out. I did the interview. Yeah, I did an interview with Desiree Smith or whatever. I don't know if y'all checked that out, but it was pretty much a chick he used to mess around with. And she told me a story about how they was watching Fresh Prince, and Tupac told her that he piped down Hillary from Fresh Prince.
Karen
I got the audio and everything. But,
wow.
Yeah. But
man.
Yeah, and I got the audio of that too, but for some reason she won't let me release it. But yeah, they was like watching Fresh Prince or whatever, and Hillary came on the screen, and Tupac made a comment saying that he smashed. So
I mean,
but you
figured, yeah.
You know what's wild, guys? I'm gonna tell y'all where a lot of that come from, where a lot of envy come from, a lot of peers. You know how a lot of these guys want to still throw pot shots at Pac to this day. At the end of the day, Tupac was the man that a lot of these rappers wanted to aspire to be. Like, he had the streets, he had the political heads, he had the women, he had Hollywood, and a lot of these goofies, they don't know how to handle it.
Yeah, for example, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, Snoop, he was mixing with Sally Richardson, and he told a story about how, Tupac, took her from him. So, stuff like that, definitely, Tupac was that dude. Yeah. Snoop Dogg said that Sally Richardson was one of his chicks or whatever, and she met Tupac, and the rest was history. So,
man,
But it's crazy though, Dialogue, because what you're dealing with is a lot of people. Because when you're looking at this early '90s era, and then of course we got to bring up what they call the lost episode of A Different World. You know, the 1991 episode where of course, where him and Vivica Fox, guest starred, because they were friends of, Lena James, of course, we know as, Jada Pinkett, her character on the show, Lena James. That was like one of the funniest episodes ever because we didn't know Pac could do comedy like that.
Right.
We didn't know he could do comedy. And, of course, he would end up in, I believe he ended up doing an episode of In Living Color later on as well. Yeah, but we didn't know Pac could do comedy, because this is like 1991. So we're like, and we're seeing him like, he's still not even like Tupac yet. Like, he's known, but he's like not that nigga yet. And it's like, you could even see it then, the genius and the comedy timing that he had then. I mean, it was like, wow. It's like, I just miss that era of hip-hop history and TV, and it was just a different time back then, man. I mean, it was like really, it was like a really big event to see a rap superstar on a show like that,
Yeah, man, 'cause that's all you pretty much had, man. You only had TV. It was no internet, no social media. It was just everything you seen on TV, man. And it was pretty much when you looked at them, they was like more exclusive because, you only seen them, on TV or whatever, unless they, came to your city and performed. So yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, these guys, like I mentioned, they also had that mystique about them. Because see,
exactly.
You look at how a lot of these rappers, they put themselves every day out there. Like, what this nigga
and
has
you don't got that mystique at all. Like you're very accessible. Like people can look at you. They can go to your Instagram and go to your Twitter or whatever, and they can see what you're doing every day. So it takes away, that mystique or whatever. So.
Yes.
How do you feel?
You see him walking the dog.
Okay. Yeah.
And to go back to what you said earlier, when you said that Tupac was he directed Mac Mall video. For people that don't know, because it just came to mind, I did an interview so long ago, I forgot. I did an interview with JT Biggerfigure, and he told a story about how Tupac directed Mac Mall video and how he had a brawl with Tupac and Richie Rich and Fillmore. So if people didn't see that, they can check it out. I did an interview like 2 years ago. So yeah, and that just came to mind when you was bringing up how Tupac directed Mac Mall video. So I just wanted to throw that out there. So yeah.
Oh yeah, it's perfectly fine, man. I mean, but wow, man. I mean, but what was from the people you talked to, AOD, what was it like during that time in like Oakland and like the Bay Area? I mean, Fillmore, for those that don't know, shout out to our people out in 415, that's San Francisco, for those that don't know. 707 Vallejo, 510 San Francisco, 209, of course. I believe that's San Jose. What was it like out there during those days, in the Bay Area?
I mean,
okay, go ahead.
I mean, I'm from Houston, so I've never been to the Bay Area before. So
but just the people you interviewed.
Oh,
in terms
okay.
of the stories you would hear.
Yeah, the only person I interviewed from the Bay Area was JT Biggerfigure, and the interview was pretty much him just detailing the brawl he had with Richie Rich and Tupac, and he pretty much told a story about how I think Tupac was on stage performing, and they tried to get on stage and fight him or whatever, and Tupac grabbed the mic stand and he started swinging the mic stand in the crowd, and I think Tupac Rolex came off and his ring came off, and JT Biggerfigure and his crew, that's how they got his chain, because it came off because he was swinging the mic stand. And yeah, that's pretty much what the interview was about. But yeah, he was the only person I interviewed that, from that area or whatever. But yeah.
But
yeah, he didn't really talk about how it was. Yeah, he didn't really go into detail about, how it is in Fillmore or the Bay Area or whatever. He didn't really speak on that. He just detailed the fight, he had with Tupac and Richie Rich.
Yeah, it's crazy because, Richie Rich is a great friend of ours, a friend of the show. And it's like, we always, Richie, the one thing about Richie that he always is very, he feels very strongly about, and he said this on the air, so we can repeat this. Of course, King echoes the same sentiments as well as myself. A lot of people feel like had Pac never left the Bay Area, he would still be alive today, because of the love that he had there from everybody, and just, of course, we know about what happened, and how things kind of went the way that they did and how he ended up in L.A. But a lot of people really feel like the Bay Area really, really, really had his back to the degree that nobody was going to touch him there. And how do you feel about that, just from the influence and just, in terms of the people he had dealt with, Spice One, Richie Rich, Digital Underground, all those guys out there? What is your sentiment on that?
I mean, that sounds about right. I mean, because if you think about it, I mean, you look at Digital Underground, Richie Rich, Spice One, they all know Tupac before he blew up, before he was a household name. So their friendship with him was more, it was more sincere and more real. They knew him before the fame, before people was crazy over him. So, yeah, that makes sense. You know what I mean? I definitely can believe that. And I agree. I think if he would have stayed in the Bay and he would have stayed messing around with Richie Rich and Spice One and people like that, I think it definitely would have been a change, as far as, where his life went and, his untimely death with, being with Suge Knight in Las Vegas and all that. Maybe he'll still be here. You know what I mean? So, I mean, you're right. But at the same time, I mean, when I think about it, I mean, I don't know, who do y'all blame that on? Like, him dying and, like, him getting shot in Vegas and him passing away. Who do y'all pick the most blame on? Do you pick the blame on Suge Knight, Ayana Jackson? Because she's the one that pretty much lied on him and, he went to prison.
The whole thing, yeah.
I gotta blame Ayana Jackson because she started the whole thing. The East to West, that was the root of the whole situation.
I agree. I mean, he would have never joined Death Row if it wasn't for her. I mean, so when you think about it, I would have to put all the blame, for the most part, on her because she's the one that lied on him. He went to prison. Interscope didn't want to bail him out, so he was pretty much forced to sign with Suge Knight because he wanted to get out of prison so bad. So, when I look at it, I put most of the blame on her. But I do agree. I definitely see where you come from. He definitely should have kept Richie Rich and Spice One and people like that by his side or whatever. You can tell they definitely had love for him. They just wasn't around him and had love for him because he was Tupac. They knew him before he sold all those records and before he was a household name. So I definitely do believe they was his real friends. Spice One, Richie Rich, Digital Underground. Yeah, I think it was definitely a sincere relationship and friendship with them. So yeah.
Now, to put this on you though, what were your thoughts on All Eyes on Me, the movie? Did you think that Demetrius played a good role in that movie as Pac? Or do you think the overall presentation of the movie was just bad, in your opinion, or good in your opinion?
It's funny you said that, man. I got an hour-long interview that I'm probably going to drop. I just got to do some editing to it because it's so long, but I got like an hour-long interview where me and LT Hutton going back and forth debating about the movie, and I kept it real with him. So to go back to what you were saying, man, All Eyes on Me, it was a bad movie, man. No character development, poor acting in there. The movie is so bad, man. I mean, I haven't seen the movie in like 3 years. It don't even got replay value, man. I mean, man, that movie, man, that was disappointing, man, because I was so disappointed because I had so much invested in that movie, man. Because I remember when they first announced who was going to play Tupac and Suge Knight, the video leaked or whatever. I mean, the picture leaked, And I was watching every move, man. Like them being on set. I actually had extras. I was friends with people that was extras on the sets, and they would like give me pictures of them being on set, and they would like give me all these inside pictures. I was actually friends with some people that actually had private screenings to see All Eyes on Me, and they would like send me videos and pictures. And people that follow me back in like 2015, 2016, they'll know what I'm talking about. But yeah, man, I had so much invested in that movie, man. And when I seen it, man, yeah, man, that shit was heartbreaking, man. I mean, that movie was just trash. How it was just rushing the scene to scene, no character development, poor acting.
Yeah.
I think the only quality scene in there is probably the Suge Knight scene when they at the dinner table and he, you know, confront the dude about stealing money and he put all the food in his face, and that's about it, man. But I haven't seen that movie in like 3 years. It don't even got replay value, man. That movie was trash.
That movie was so bad that Snoop literally sent his vocals to the character. The character didn't even speak.
I'm gonna get back to that in a second. When you talked about who do we blame everything in terms of Tupac's death and how things happened, I'm gonna take somewhat of an unpopular opinion. Although Homegirl definitely, you know, she did not help that situation at all. You know, because I mean to fraudulently throw charges to accusations of somebody. But, you know, when we look at that time back in 1994, you know, and this is way before the November 28th Quad studio shooting, there was just a lot of turmoil going on. Of course, him and Big were friends, and then somehow they just had a falling out. You know, of course, you know, the shooting happens. You know, Pac thinks because Big and Puffy are there at the same time that they orchestrated it, although he had no evidence that happened. And, you know, he ignited something with them that I think had he maybe been a little bit calmer about it, and because that's one rule of the street, you know, you don't really want to throw things out there until you know, because the casualties can be too great of what can happen. You know, and when you put things out there, things can go wrong.
Right.
You know, but it was just, you know, and I got all the love in the world for Pac, still do. I just wish that situation he had just been a little bit. But I mean, when you take 5 shots like that, I mean, how can you be calm? You know, and I understand it, but it's like, you know, if I could have talked to him then, I would have been like, dude, I know how it looks, but you don't know for sure that these guys did it, and you don't want to. You know, I mean, a lot of people look at that as the, you know, the pivotal moment of where the East Coast West Coast rivalry started. You know, primarily because you're dealing with 2 of the biggest artists in the industry at the time. This would spill over into West Side Connection dropping their album, you know, the next year. This would, of course, go with, you know, you know, Dog Pound when they did LA off of the Dog Food album next year. This would go with Capone and Noriega. You know, I mean, with New York, Dog Pound. My mistake. New York, New Dog Pound Gangsters doing New York, and then Capone and Noriega responding with LA. You know, I mean, this touched off a lot of stuff. I mean, and it was a singular incident. You know, but it's like.
You know what?
I mean,
it's kind of like the everybody had a role to play in that thing, because
right.
Like with Puff, when he sent the Who Shot Your joint out there, I look at it like that's the bad timing. Like, you know, this dude just got hit, and you gonna release a song like that.
And then Pop thinking that it's about him.
They know what they was doing when they did
it wasn't about him at all.
I mean, that's what they say. Here's the thing. Tupac never said that Biggie. Yeah, here's the thing, man. Tupac never said that Biggie and Puffy set him up or they had anything to do with it. He just felt like they knew what was going to happen, and they knew that he was going to get robbed, and they didn't give him a heads up. Yeah, so that's the thing. I think that's one thing that people always say. They always say, oh, Tupac blamed Biggie and Puffy for setting him up, and yeah, he said in the interviews that, you know, he made that clear that, you know, he never accused them of setting him up or having anything to do with the robbery. He just felt like they knew and they just didn't warn him or whatever. And
Right.
Yeah. And as far as that,
Thank you for
the whole,
clarifying that, because I don't want to be errant. Thank you for clarifying that, because I don't want to be
right.
errant on anything I say.
And as far as the East Coast West Coast thing, to be clear, Tupac didn't start that. Actually, if I'm not mistaken, I can't get the names correctly, but if I'm not mistaken, was it Puff Daddy bodyguard that killed Suge Knight best friend in Atlanta or whatever?
That wasn't
and
Wolf.
That's pretty
That was Wolf Jones, right?
Yeah, he was the one, and that's pretty much where it stemmed from. It stemmed from that or whatever. So,
okay.
And it was something else that I just said that I wanted to comment on, but I forgot. What's the last thing y'all said? Because I wanted
I didn't like. Yeah, it sounded like, you know, with the narratives of all of who to blame is now being shifted. Like they wanted to make it like, because you know I was alive. I was alive when we witnessed all this, so we pretty much knew what was going on. It was kind of like they were trying to blame Suge and Pac for everything. But I'm like, y'all, everybody played a role. Snoop
everybody played a role, man. People are trying to change history. Once again, you got Dog Pound shooting the video, in New York and kicking over the buildings or whatever. You got Wolf, killing Suge Knight best friend. It's actually diss songs of Dog Pound and Snoop Dogg dissing Biggie and them or whatever. So yeah, it was a lot going on. Even Dr. Dre, it's an unreleased intro that's online right now of him dissing East Coast or whatever. And for some weird reason, people just forget about all this and they just want to blame it on Tupac and blame him and say he's the one that started the whole East Coast West Coast thing, when simply it's not true. That was definitely already started before Tupac joined Death Row or before the whole Quad Studio thing. It was already started before that. So, I think people out here, I don't know, man. It's just people are just easily influenced, man. You can have somebody that does an interview and, they say stuff and people would just run with it without doing a, research or whatever. But it's definitely a whole lot of people trying to rewrite history and put all the blame on a dead person that can't defend himself.
Yeah, then not to mention the interview that Snoop did with Jamel Hill where he was trying to blame it like, man, me and Dr. Dre, we were just trying to make music. We weren't trying to beat. I'm like, nigga, your whole label started off beat. You started on Eazy-E for money.
Exactly.
You know, vanilla ice over a damn balcony.
And look. I mean, and then, of course, the Source Awards, when Suge said what he said, I mean, that was like, when he said that, we were like,
Tupac was in prison when that happened, too. Another good example.
Yeah, so it's like when he said that, there was already tension before that with what had already happened, as you said. But when you basically just, and, Suge tried to say that he wasn't talking about, Puffy, he was talking about Jermaine Dupri, and we're like, okay, but, it's there was just so much funk going on, from so many different levels, that it's like, that was something that ultimately, I'm glad that it got resolved. We lost there was a couple of soldiers that got lost in the process, but they realized at the end we were stronger together in the culture being united than we were separated and distant. And I'm glad that, eventually they managed, from both sides, both coasts, they managed to come together and really, 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 smooth everything over. Even though it took some time, it was better late than never.
It's
right.
But when you got cats like Funk Flex coming out there every once in a blue moon, want to howl, that's where it messes up the peace treaty a little bit. And I'd be like, man, y'all need to hit him with his turntable or something. Like,
right.
Exactly.
Right.
Like Flex should know better than that. My thing is, look, we worked so hard. We lost a lot of people behind the scenes with that whole situation, and we don't need to go back to that. We really don't. And Flex knows better than to keep doing this for whatever reason. For ratings, I'm like, look, nigga, it ain't that. You lose respect when you're when you speak ill of a man who represented the culture and was all about his people, and you still want to do this for cheap thrills because you feel like, oh, you have something to say. Some things are better left unsaid.
Hey, hold on, T-Max. We got a guest on the line right here on the 815 caller.
Okay.
815, you on?
Hey, I just say, my name's Kristin Parcus. I just wanted to say I disagree with you guys because Ayana Jackson, she was the root of everything. Because if she hadn't lied on Pac, if that bitch hadn't lied, Pac would have been in L.A. Pac would have been in L.A. making. Pac would not have been. He wouldn't have been in New York. He wouldn't have got shot 5 times. He would have been in L.A. making movies. He got fired and everything because she lied, and that's why he was in New York. I'm sorry, what was that?
No, I said he got fired from higher learning because of that incident. Yes.
He got fired from movies. Yeah. So he would have been in L.A. making movies instead of trying to scrape up some money for that $7,000 he was going to get paid. He wouldn't have been in New York, and all that shit would have never happened. He would have never went to prison. So you guys were saying something about the shooting and stuff. Well, the shooting would have never happened if it wasn't for Ayana.
Now I'll say Now I will say that I was the one that spoke on the shooting, but you gave me me and us some information in terms of some backstory, because I didn't know with higher learning that he had actually initially had gotten hired for that role. I didn't know that.
Yeah, he did, and he got fired from that movie. And I think that was the reason why him and John Singleton was beefing for a while, was simply because of that, because he didn't. He was supposed to be in higher learning, and because of the incident, he got fired. But, yeah, man, I agree. I mean, everything she just said I was saying earlier, I honestly do put majority of the blame on Ayana Jackson. Because, like I said, I mean, if it wasn't for her,
Pac
he would have never been in prison.
both would probably still be alive. They'd probably both still be alive if it wasn't for that lying-ass bitch.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because if it wasn't
all
for her,
falls 100% on her.
Yeah, if it wasn't for her, he would have never been in prison. He would have never been forced to sign, with Suge Knight in Death Row. So yeah, I definitely got up.
Yeah, he wouldn't have even been in New York at that time. He would have been in L.A. making his movies and making his music, and he could have stayed independent. He didn't need Death Row. The only reason he needed Death Row was to get out of prison. So that's how it all started, because of that lying-ass bitch.
Yeah, that's something when we think about to this day, and you echo the sentiments that we all feel. I have my position on it, but I can say if I'm wrong or if there is another element to it that can add to it. But, I still agree with everybody on that side, because we all wonder. It's like when Mike Tyson went to prison, and Mike Tyson was dominating at the time. Same thing with Pac. We wonder what it would have been like had Pac never, had he never got locked up. Had that derailment never happened, what he might have been able to do, without that interruption. And it's just crazy. I mean, because when we young shorties at the time, and we hear this, we're like, Tupac Shakur has been locked up on accusations of rape. We're like, what? We're like, how?
Yeah, that's pretty much how I found out about Tupac, was simply me being a kid and always seeing him on CNN and the local news, and him always, being into something. That's actually how I found out who Tupac was.
Yeah. But if anything, it will also look like a blessing in disguise, because look at the fire music that motivated him. Like, he wrote All Eyes on Me in 2 weeks.
Right. Yeah, man. All them albums, man, got storylines behind it. I mean, if you look at Me Against the World, he was dealing with the whole Quad Studio incident. Then he was dealing with all them lawsuits and people suing him. Then if you look at All Eyes on Me, him just getting bailed out, and him joining Death Row. Then you got Machiavelli, him beefing with everybody. I think that's all that stuff Tupac was going through, man. And them albums and the storylines behind them albums, man, makes them albums even better.
Yeah, but
that doesn't make it a blessing though, because he died over that shit.
Well, yeah, true, but at the same time, I mean, we got a whole lot of timeless music that will still be here 200, 500 years from now. So, I mean, you know, hey.
Yeah. But, I mean, when you look at that whole situation in terms of it, I mean, that guy, you know, I mean, when he dropped All Eyes on Me, though, I mean, you want to talk about, like, a game changer. I mean, there are 3 albums of 1996 that defined that era. It was Fuji's The Score, Nas's It Was Written, and Tupac's All Eyes on Me. I mean, those are the big 3 of that era of that year that just defined it. I mean, Pac dropping a double album as that. I mean, we were like, because when we first heard that he was getting out on bail, dude, we were like, oh shit.
He had a mission.
We were like, oh
yeah, take me
shit.
through that,
like,
man. Like, take me through that experience when, you know, it was like officially announced that he was going to join Death Row and him dropping All Eyes on Me. Like, how was that like?
King, go first, and then I'll go. And then, you know, Mama, you still on air with us?
Yes, I'm listening to you guys.
Yes,
if you want to get more input, please.
Yeah. You care to? Oh God! Now remember, you called us when we had DJ King Assassin on, and we want to know how you doing too.
I'm sorry. What was that?
Yeah, I remember when you called a long time ago. You called the show a long time ago when we had DJ King Assassin on the show.
Oh yeah. Mhm.
So we want to know what you've been up to and how you doing.
I'm doing good. I got a foundation that I started in memory of Pac and Feeney called Spark the Brain. We just went and checked up on Hussein Fatal's 2 daughters. We're helping them out. We donated $2,500 to autistic children and their families in Newark, New Jersey, and we've been doing stuff for Matulu.
Hey, what's your name again?
Kristin Parcus.
Oh, okay. I know who you are. Okay.
Yeah. So Miss Kristin, I mean, when you first heard Tupac, when you first heard about Pac signing with Death Row, what was your feeling of it back in the day when you first heard it?
Yes.
I didn't really know like what it was going to be like. You know what I mean? I didn't know if it was good or bad. I remember watching that on MTV News when he got out, and they were making the video California Love. So I don't know. I didn't know what it was going to be like. I just couldn't understand. I remember sitting with my kid's dad and some friends and stuff, and I was like, then it's like I don't understand how that was before he got bail. I'm like, how can he not get out? You know what I mean? So it was just not comprehensible to me how he couldn't get out. But I was glad that he did get out.
Right.
But looking at it hindsight now, I just wish that the whole Ayana shit had never happened. I think he would have been better off staying independent, and he would still be alive. And so would Biggie.
So how do you feel about Tupac joining Death Row? It seems like you really don't like that decision, and are you a fan of the Death Row Tupac?
Yeah, it's just sad that it got him killed.
Right. I got you.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not hating on like Death Row or whatever, but it's obvious that that's what got him killed.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't have no real friends around him.
That hadn't happened.
Right. Yeah, they go back to what we were saying earlier. Like, Tupac didn't have any real friends around him. I mean, the people that really cared about Tupac was from the Bay, like Spice One, you know, and Digital Underground, and
Richie,
Drew,
Mac Mall, all those guys. Yeah.
Yeah, Mac Mall,
Ray Love,
they was all
Young Lay, all those guys.
Yeah, they all cared about this dude, and he didn't have none of them dudes around him when he was on death row. So he didn't have no rivals around him. I mean, if we keeping it real, Suge Knight, Snoop, if we being honest, they wasn't his real friends, man. All his real friends was from the Bay. Everybody we just named, and yeah, I agree with you that
No, they wasn't his real friends. Some of them were jealous of him.
You think so? Like who you think from the Bay was jealous of Tupac?
No, I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the death row people.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm agreeing with you. I don't think Suge Knight and Snoop Dogg was, Tupac real friends at all. I think his real friends was from the Bay, like Richie Rich, Spice One, Mac Mall, Ray Love, Digital, Shock G, Money B. Yeah, I think they was his real friends. I think everybody that was with him, when he was on death row wasn't his real friends. Probably Big Syke. I think he was still messing with Big Syke when he was on death row. I think he was a real one, as far as him being friends with Tupac. But yeah, that's probably it. Really.
It's a lot of envy. It was clearly a lot of envy there because he came out. First of all, the first viral interview that we did when we had Gonzo on the board a long time ago, and he said that when Tupac came out to L.A., it kind of like made a lot of the guys that already stayed in L.A. a little bit envious, like Snoop, Dre, and Q, because they were the kings out there. And Pop, being a New York dude, coming out there, running the ship like he did, and he had that energy, it's the alpha male energy. It kind of makes a lot of people timid. And then he brings the Hollywood energy.
Yeah, he pushed a lot of albums back.
Mm-hmm. A lot of these guys were stars, but they won't stars like Pop was.
Yeah, and
I did an interview with Kenya Ware, Dad's baby mom, and she openly admitted that everybody on death row was pretty much jealous of Tupac.
Well, I heard a story that Snoop was in the studio and everybody was around him. Everybody was listening to him and they were all standing around him. And then Pac came in the studio and everybody was saying, Pac, Pac. And every motherfucking buddy, every single person ran to Pac and left Snoop there by himself. And he was sitting there looking crunchy as hell. So he was very jealous of him.
And that was the moment there where he wasn't Jordan at the label no more. He was Pippen.
Yeah, he still do these interviews, man, where you can just tell this dude is insecure. He still does these interviews where he just makes it seem like he was Batman and Tupac was Robin, and he always try to take credit for Tupac's success on death row. You can just tell how jealous and insecure he is, man.
He was already a superstar before he went to death row. He didn't need death row. He was already a super mega star. He was already an actor. He was already everything he was. So he didn't need death row. He was already all that before he went to death row. So they didn't make him. He was already what he was before he got there.
Yeah, that's true.
The man had a movie with Janet Jackson. You don't get no bigger than that.
Yeah, had a number one movie.
So I don't know why Snoop is saying that stuff now. I don't know why. I don't understand why he was saying that. Who said that about? Who said that recently? Somebody said that. Was it Snoop that said that that Death Row made Pac? Somebody said that recently.
I think you referring to Glasses Malone. That's the person that made that statement.
Yeah, I don't know who said it, but that was ignorant because he was already who he was before he got there. He didn't need them.
Yeah, Poetic Justice was number one. He co-starred in that with Janet Jackson. Me Against the World was a number one album. It went platinum as well before Tupac joined Death Row. Tupac Lives Now was gold. Strictly for My Niggas, if I'm not mistaken, I think that was platinum as well before Tupac joined Death Row. He had
Above
Dear
the
Mama.
Rim.
Yeah, he had Above the Rim.
Forget Above the Rim soundtrack '94.
Yeah,
The
then
movie,
he had Juice.
Yeah, Juice.
Yeah, then Dear Mama was a top 10 Billboard 100 song. He had Keep Your Head Up, which was
number one record from jail?
Yeah, true.
Yes.
He had which was in the top 20 of the Billboard Top 100. Yeah, I Get Around, which was another top 20 on the Billboard Top 100. So he had 3 hits. Anything you got in the top 20 of the Billboard Top 100 is a hit. And Dear Mama was in the top 10. So he had 3 hits, 2 platinum albums, a gold album, a number 1 movie before he joined Death Row. So yeah, anybody that's trying to push that narrative that Death Row made Tupac is an idiot.
No, and the one thing about it from my side of it, when I heard, Pac was going to sign with Death Row, I'm like, okay, the Bulls already done got themselves another megastar. Because I'm like, Death Row, from when they came in '92, had already made a seismic impact in terms of what they had. I mean, the roster, you have the Chronic, you got Doggy Style, you had Dog Food. I mean, now you're adding Pac to it, and we all agree Pac was already made. I'm like, dude, now you giving him that outlet? I'm like, dude,
like
it's
Kevin Durant going to it's like KD going to
the
Golden
Warriors.
State time.
I'm like, yeah, it's like the Bulls got another Jordan, Durant, Durant going to the Warriors. It's like, this is a juggernaut that, for what it was, for that time, he was already a supernova. So we're already thinking like Death Row was already, just this big machine. They're about to be a juggernaut that nobody's ever going to be able to stop. I mean, you add one of the biggest stars to the label who's already, and now you're going to give him those resources with that producer,
Hey, I gotta
Dre.
go, guys.
Okay.
All right, it was good hearing from you.
Definitely, man. Look, keep doing the things with your foundation, man. Look, call back anytime. You're always welcome. But yeah, when you
know what to keep it brick. Let me say this. This may be an unpopular opinion, and I dare anybody to debate on it. But around '95, Death Row was kind of on the fizzle. Bad Boy was knocking it out the ballpark. So
I won't say that they were on the slide because the Dog Food album album came through. But that was the album too. But you figure they had enough momentum between Above the Rim and the Dog Food album to take them through. But I mean, they were
basically riding from the momentum of '94. They ain't want
right,
and that's where even Dre was really doing nothing. Then Snoop, he was going through the murder trial and all that stuff. So he wasn't really putting out nothing. So the Dog Food album, if you really look it up, that's the only album that came out. Bad Boy was killing them all, man. Big had dropped.
That's true.
Craig Mack had dropped. Faith had dropped.
That was in '94. Big dropped in '94.
Yeah, and I think
Craig
somebody
Mack
admitted it. Somebody admitted that. I can't think of the name. Now, I say somebody admitted that when Tupac came, that he did bring life to Death Row. I forgot who said it. But yeah, I absolutely agree that Tupac joining Death Row definitely did bring life to that.
Yeah, I'm like, you're gonna give him Dre. You got the Dog Pound. You got Snoop. I mean, you got Suge heading up. I'm like, dude, it's like, and you give him all of that ammunition for his vision, and the nigga been locked up. Oh, he had a lot of shit he had to say. I was like, boy, I'm like, it's about to be on. But
that was one of them big acquisitions that nobody in the world seen happening. People don't understand how big that was. And this was before social media and before Twitter.
Right, exactly. ALD and King. Yeah, but I mean, it's crazy because, like y'all said, this is before social media, so it's like, and we young niggas at the time, so we're watching all of this unfold. I would tell any of our younger listeners today, you had to, I know it sounds cliche, I know it sounds old man status, but it's like this. You had to have been at our age at that time to really understand how big that was.
Right.
I mean, that was just something that you just did not expect because, if you read the source, which was really the magazine at the time to read. It was just something that, because they talked about, they talked with Pac, I believe, in a later issue. Matter of fact, they did. It was the March '96 issue with the cover Tupac Free, and it was a gravelly black and white picture with Pac
it was like
on the
Tupac
cover.
had he had the white mustard shirt on. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and it had the blue Source logo over the top. Matter of fact, it had a picture, and it's so surreal. It brings tears to your eyes because it has the picture with him in sight when he got out of prison, and he's getting into the limousine, that picks him up, and him and Psych are in that picture together.
He got the white snapback on, like that white sweater on, and he getting in the white limousine.
Yeah.
Hey, to switch gears for a minute here. To switch gears for a minute. Now I want to talk about this here, and this is possibly one of the best interviews that you've done. I watched and we live in an attention span era where people can't even pay attention to nothing but 10 minutes. But the way you did the Napoleon interview was masterful. I listened to the whole thing in 2 hours, eating cereal.
Wow.
Because I was like, man, it helped for the fact that you knew what you was asking him. And number two, Napoleon is also a great storyteller. And not to mention, he also refuted a lot of stuff that a lot of these industry dudes be saying. So I want to prop you for that interview here, man. Like, how do you feel about that interview now?
I mean, I appreciate it, man. That means a lot, man. I think it's a classic. I mean, everybody telling me, I don't want to say my own work is a classic, but I mean, everybody always say it's an instant classic. They love the interview. They give me my props and your Tupac information, and you ask them the right stuff, and man, I appreciate it, man. I mean, the fact that you told me that you actually heard the whole 2-hour interview, man, that means a lot, man. Words can explain how much I appreciate that, man. Wow.
Yeah, I had to do it to you, man, because I seen how dirty this game is, and T-Max know where I'm going with this. Well, you had certain journalists want to, take guests, ask the same questions you do, and try to get all the clout for themselves.
Yeah, a certain individual always asking questions, copying your shit.
Yeah, man, I seen that he did that with the Napoleon thing. He just did that now with the Andre Rison thing. I actually did an interview with Andre Rison 2 years ago. I guess he probably was looking down my channel and he found that, so he got that interview. Did an interview with Angel Kelly. Then the same day I did that interview, he wanted to what he call this shit? A flashback video where he dropped a part to his Head of Hunter interview on the same day I dropped my Angel Kelly shit. I don't know, man. You know some other shit, man.
Look, ALG, we be laughing because King be having me dying when he be saying, about how this man got no shame, where he be chopping up his interviews like
no shame in his
15 bars.
Yeah. Because I looked at it, because, I started paying attention. I hit your line directly about that, brother, because I was like, he literally asking the same question that you did with the clip-ups.
Yeah, it was obvious. It was obvious. Even people in the comments was calling him out on that. It was, so obvious, bro. It's literally he just took everything that I asked Napoleon and he just brought him up there and just re-asked him on his platform. It was crazy, man. Just to do something that thirsty, just right after I do my interview is yeah, man, that's crazy. Then on top of that, some of the people I be interviewing, they be telling me after they do interviews with me that old dude actually would reach out to him and DM him on Instagram and try to get an interview with him. So, yeah, man. Yeah, he does that shit to a lot, man. He does.
Look, we just call him Triple D. We just call him Triple D.
That's that with Kenya
Triple D.
Kenya Ware told me some shit like that. After I did an interview with her, old dude was in her DM, trying to get an interview with her. So, yeah, man, he be on some other shit, man.
But let me tell you this, though. I'm noticing this now. He's clearly on your heels because every interview he does, he try to incorporate a Tupac question in it.
You're right,
like,
right.
Probably
I noticed that.
Notice this next time. Every interview he does, he got like Tupac content related to it. So he probably seen what you was doing, and he's like, all right, I got to get some of that clout too. He'll ask one of them old mobsters, so what's your favorite Tupac song? Hey, what the hell?
I'm like, what does this have to do with the interview? I'm like,
that's one of them old mob guys.
Like, got no shame. Like, the dude
yeah,
got
man,
no
he don't
shame.
got no shame. Like, I can't believe it. Like, even with the Angel Kelly shit, shit was just so thirsty, bro. Like, I did that shit. I did the Angel Kelly interview. I dropped like a 30-minute clip of her talking about what happened, after the How Do You Want It music video when they had like an after party, and that shit did like 600,000 in like 2 days, and here this dude come dropping the Head 100. Yeah, then he dropped the Head 100 shit, the flashback video, and try to ride my wave. Then, yeah, even with the Napoleon shit, I wasn't even done. I didn't even pick the full interview out. I was still dropping parts of that interview, and he already had him on his platform. Like, while I'm still, dropping pieces to the interview. It's like, what the fuck, bro? Like, yeah, that dude, man, out of pocket, man.
Well, we're not going to mention his name because we don't acknowledge such plagiarism. So we're not going to do that.
We just
but
know
one
him as
thing
Deputy
about it,
Dog.
Exactly, Triple B, Deputy Dog. That's what we call him. But ALD, but you said you're from Houston, man. So we gotta get into your background a little bit for you coming up out there. Shout out to, of course, South Acres, Sunnyside, 3rd Ward, 5th Ward. You come from a distinguished hip-hop, hotbed yourself. So you were around to see guys like, the Ghetto Boys, with actually even before the Ghetto Boys with Jay Prince, when he started, which, rap a lot, it would become the Ghetto Boys. Of course, Scarface going solo. You would see that second wave of Texas hip-hop, of course, with Swisher House, Chameleonaire, Paul Wall, Slim Thug. Of course, Lil Kiki, shout out to the South Side. Big Mo, rest in peace. Big Halt, Fat Pat, rest in peace. UGK, shout out to Port Arthur. Chingo Bling. All those guys, man. Mike Jones.
Where you from? Like? Where you from? You pretty familiar with the whole Houston scene. Where you from?
I'm from VA, 757, born and raised.
Wow, that's impressive. Like, damn. Yeah, man, you really know your history as far as hip-hop go. Wow.
That's what we call him T-Mac with the fact. He be gaming me on
he naming stuff that nobody wouldn't really know these artists unless you from Houston. That's why I was like, whoa, like he naming some underground type artists.
And I be errant if I don't give love and respect to the man Robert Earl Davis Jr. But everybody, that's his government, but we also know him as DJ Screw.
Right. Well,
so we got to get.
Yeah, you gotta give respect to him, man. That's facts.
Yeah, man, we got to shout out.
But,
yeah, man. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was gonna ask. I was gonna answer your question. To be honest with you, man. As far as Houston rappers go, and I'm gonna keep it a buck with you, man. I think it probably is Scarface, then it stops. And what I mean by that is, with me, man, how I grew up, man, I had a big brother, and pretty much all the music I used to listen to would be music that he'll bring home, So at this time, we had the cassettes and the CDs or whatever. So whatever he brought home, I would listen to. So he'll bring home Tupac, and that's how I became a Tupac fan. He'll bring home Biggie, so I listen to Biggie. He'll bring home Jay-Z, Nas, and I'll listen to these artists. So, yeah, man, born and raised in Houston, but I always listen to rappers that have substance and some lyrical ability. So when it comes to Houston rap scene, if it ain't Scarface, I'm really not trying to listen to it. He's probably the only Houston rapper I listen to, from Houston, to be honest with you. yeah, I'm not really into the candy paint and the purple drinking. That's not really my vibe. So, yeah.
Yeah, but one
now,
thing
what
about
about
it,
Zero?
one thing about
Zero gives me that same vibe,
Yeah.
like
Yeah, he got substance.
similar,
I
like,
fuck with Zero. He got
yeah,
substance.
like Scarface and Pac.
Niggas used to always look at me weird, man, when I was like in high school and stuff like that, because everybody would be listening to Trey the Truth, Power Wall, Chameleonaire, and stuff like that, and I'm over here listening to Tupac, Ice Cube, Jay-Z, Nas, people like that. So yeah, man. I mean, you know how it goes, man. But yeah, man. As far as Houston rap scene go, if it's not Scarface, I don't really listen to it. And I listen to some Zero. I mean, I respect him. He got some substance, but I don't really listen to him like that. But yeah. Shout out to Zero.
Yeah, Face is one of the coldest to ever do it, man. What was your reaction when you heard Smile for the first time with him and Pac?
Oh man, that's one of my favorite Tupac features, man, with him and Scarface, man. His verse on that, man, is oh my God. I think his last verse, I think he had 2 verses on that, right? The second verse was insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, the second verse, whoa. But yeah, man, I think they were supposed to come out with an album together too. So yeah, I mean, I wish I would have heard that, man. That definitely would have been dope, man. But yeah, man, that's one of my favorite Tupac features. Smile with him and Scarface.
So what was the deal? So there's been a lot of questions about this, AOD. What was the deal with Tupac's verse on Homies and Thugs remix in terms of how that got up there? From people you've talked to, if you have, about it, because that dropped in '98. The My Homies album. And that's like, that was a hard ass verse. I mean, for Pop dropping it, it was, even if it was not mixed in as it should have been, but it's like, we heard that and we were like, whoa, because this, of course, we're calling Tupac the Black Elvis at the time because everybody's saying he's still alive, and we
especially
hear
with
that
the
and we're
Smile
like,
video, I thought he was alive. I was like, what the hell was
this?
Yeah, man. And once again, it's funny y'all say that because it goes back to what we was talking about earlier. That's another reason why the 90s is really why you still got these people that think Tupac is alive and they got all these conspiracy theories because they were showing that shit on TV. Like, they had, like, they was literally entertaining Tupac being alive on TV. And once again, we didn't have social media and the internet and stuff. So whatever you seen on TV, you believed it or, stuff like that. So, yeah, man, like, even with the Smile video, that was like something else that entertained the whole Tupac being alive thing. But as far as the homie calls, I mean, Homies and Thugs thing, that's the song with Scarface, Master P, right?
Yeah. That
was big out here. Got Master P, everything that he put out went to platinum quick.
Bro, do you know how big Master P was in Houston in a prime back in like 97, 98?
I believe he had that whole South, that whole from Louisiana to Houston to the Bay. He was killing it.
Bruh, I mean, that's probably out of anybody that I've seen have an effect on Houston, I would probably say No Limit back in 97, 98, man. That was crazy, bro. Like, man, that was crazy, man. Like,
but it's crazy. Whew. But AOD was wild though, and once again, we only can say this because it's already been made public. He was running, he was going through his stuff, definitely doing his thing. Of course, we're just glad World War III didn't jump off in the South with him and Jay Prince. God knows. And Jay Prince talked about that in his book, about that. And that, once again, we can only talk, we're only saying it because, Mr. Prince talked about that. For our readers, for our listeners who have not read it, The Artist Science of Respect, written by James Prince, great book. If you have not picked it up, you need to go get it. And Jay Prince talked about that situation where P and, Pimp C had a little run-in. And we're like, this is during that 90s era where P was, like, heavy in Houston and he was doing a lot of collaborations. And, of course, that was the Southwest Riders album, I believe. King, correct me if I'm wrong. So P had that. He was having that pull down south, and then there was a little hiccup that fortunately managed to get straightened out. But I was like, man,
Yeah, I think I heard about it. I don't know all the details, but I did hear something. If I'm not mistaken, did Master P give Pimp C the beats or something like that?
Yeah, it was they basically dog napped him, man. Because Pimp C didn't get paid for some of the songs that they did, and Pimp C, talking smack.
Started talking.
Next thing you know, they dog napped him, pistol whipped him.
And that's when Jay Prince had to get, and that's when Jay Prince had to get involved and was like, listen, he told P, listen, whatever problems there are, me and Pimp are gonna, basically, they knew the gravity of the situation, and Jay Prince told P, look, whatever this issue is, we as men are going to talk about it and get to the bottom of it. And he told P, and I'm going to talk to Pimp about that, because Pimp was, rocking with, Rap a Lot Heavy back then. And he's like, and I'm going to tell Pimp that ain't how we do business. If there's a problem, we don't go out talking publicly about things. He's like, so I will tell him there's not going to be any more disrespect. And I'm going to make sure that, between you and me that there's not any more issues. And he left it at that. And, of course, they resolved the situation because me and King have talked about this off the air, a little more in depth. And all we can say is, man, we're just glad that didn't escalate. Because it could have.
We all know for sure we live in the South, man, and niggas beef in the South totally different.
Right.
Well, shout out to
totally different beefs in the South, because Pimp C said it best. You beef with me. I mean, you beef with them boys up north. They gonna lip wrestle with you. You beef with me. I'ma see you, homie. I'ma see you, Jack.
Yeah. And that's
great.
When they smell my cologne.
That's a common theme. We've interviewed artists from Texas. We've interviewed artists from New Orleans. And that's the general sentiment. That's like I always refer to this guy because he was one of the funniest and realest interviews we had. OG Bezel from New Orleans. OG Bezel said straight up, you're gonna have to come see that man if you beef him on if you start dissing him on wax. You're gonna have to see him in person.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
That's how it was.
Bezel.
People gotta understand that's how it was even back then when we was talking about beefs, like in the 90s.
Yeah.
There was no DMs. There was no text messages. You had to see that man as soon it was going down. Like if you even catch you at the supermarket, you had to handle it on site. If you was at the gas station, you had to handle it on site. There was no DMs to de-escalate.
Yeah, man, but yeah, just to comment on that a little, yeah, man, y'all catalog is something serious, man. Y'all interview catalog is, pretty deep, man. So shout out to y'all, man. Y'all got a pretty crazy catalog.
We appreciate you, brother. I think we got Kristin back on. She wanted.
Okay.
I wasn't able to listen. I was on a phone call. So what are you guys talking about now?
Oh, we're just pretty much just talking about his Houston background and, getting to know things about what's happening with the South and where he's from.
Oh, okay.
And also Southern politics about what happens when you speak on another man on wax disrespecting him. There ain't going to be no peace
talk. It's totally different politics. So we were just basically explaining like how different the game is today than it was before. There was none of that whole F you, I'm gonna see you in the streets, or you go on live, you disrespect the man, and then y'all cool Sunday. Nah, man, it was like a Cuban Missile Crisis at that time.
Yeah.
It's just weird. The new era is just weird to me.
Yeah,
what
man,
did you guys think about 6ix9ine saying that he was just as good as Tupac?
He's just saying anything for attention. The one thing I learned about
Yo.
that is
Yo,
he just
King,
say anything.
you saw that joint I tagged you in, right? You saw that video I tagged you in my man's post on Facebook, right? About 6ix9ine was giving out those albums for free in New York.
Yeah.
Because won't nobody buying it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
one thing I learned about that, Kristin, is with guys like that, they're going to try to use Tupac's name for attention. So what they got to do is don't even acknowledge that. You got to let a troll lives off attention. So you don't give him attention, he's going to die off.
Yeah, I learned about that, man, because I actually, a few people, man, I had so many people blowing me up about that interview that 6ix9ine did, and he made a comparison to Tupac, and he actually made a comment about Tupac rape case, and he made a comment of some shit like Tupac was found guilty of rape, but y'all gave him a pass, but y'all won't give me a pass, and once again, you know, just go back to what you just said, that almost got me in my feelings and made me react. But then again, I just, you know, he's a troll because at the end of the day, I mean, Tupac wasn't found guilty of rape. You know what I mean? But that almost got me mad because, like I said, I mean, with this generation, they don't do their research and see the truth, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah, he almost got me to react, but, you know, they came and went. Everybody ain't really talking about that no more. He just,
this generation, like, their music doesn't have any meaning. It doesn't have any, you know... It's just not like it was in the 90s. I so wish we could go back to the 90s because this music now is shit. It's just garbage. It's disgusting.
Yeah, I agree.
They look like a bunch of clowns walking around with their pants falling off their ass. They look like a bunch of fools. And they wear blouses, their grandma's blouses and dresses and shit. They look like a bunch of damn fools.
But see, you guys would think, too, that considering what's happening with the world with you got a pandemic, you got a crisis, you got protests and riots. It will force the gear shift on a lot of MCs. And I ain't talking about the ones on the underground or the ones that we had on our show because they still putting in the turf work. But, you know, the people that's up in the mainstream, like on the top dog levels, you would think that it would motivate them to shift their content up a little bit. But these cats are still putting out turn-up joints, and their clubs are closed.
Yeah, man. I personally, man, I don't really listen to anybody from this generation. I mean, if it's not J. Cole, I listen to J. Cole. He's cool. I'm Kendrick Lamar. He's cool. Probably listen to some Mozzie. I think he cool. I think he's from Sacramento.
Mozzie, shout out to the 916 Sacramento, Mozzie. King will tell you I'm a big Mozzie fan. So yeah.
yeah, and that's where it stops. That's where it stops for me. J. Cole, Kendrick Lamar, and Mozzie. Those are the only people from this generation that I really, you know, have in my iPad that I actually, you know, listen to. But not really. I don't really listen to nobody else outside of them. So.
Yeah, and before I get into the next part of it, I gotta reiterate this what y'all were saying. Tupac was never found guilty of rape. I repeat. Tupac was never found guilty. He was held on the charge of suspicion, but he was never found guilty. He was out on bail when all this stuff happened.
The charge he was found guilty of was for inappropriately touching the buttock.
Yeah, thank you. Say that loud, man. You got a lot of people.
Inappropriately touching the buttocks. That's what he was found guilty of.
We need to get that out there a lot more.
And I don't know why in the hell you would go to prison for 4.5 years for inappropriately touching the buttocks, which the bitch wanted him to do anyway. But that's kind of excessive.
How does that make sense?
It was excessive. That was excessive.
Yeah, like how does that make sense? Like he got found guilty of touching a sexual assault for touching a chick buttocks in the club or whatever. But this same chick gave him sloppy top in the club. So how does that make sense? Like, she gave him head in the club, so he still found guilty of touching her, you know, on the ass or whatever? I don't know. That's weird, man. I don't know.
But what it is, if you really look at it, they've been after Tupac just based off his background alone. Even you can look at his FBI file. They got FBI files on him and Eazy-E.
His whole family. Tupac's whole family.
Well, you guys can't talk about Tupac without talking about his beautiful queen mother.
Absolutely.
She was already an icon of her own.
Yeah, Feeny, and of course her sister Asada, you know, who's in Cuba. You know, she Because Asada, when that whole situation went down and Asada fled to Cuba, they tried to strong-arm Cuba. The U.S. tried to strong-arm Cuba saying, y'all going to give her up. And Cuba was like, come make us. They were like, she's Cuban. Come make us give her up. And, she's been in Cuba ever since. And, of course, with Afeni, that woman, she is grace personified. She is black woman strength, essence. Just to see what that woman endured in her lifetime and what she survived, and even after
have you guys read her book? Have you read her book that Jasmine Guy wrote about her? You've got to read her book.
Yeah, one of my friends.
Evolution of a Revolutionary.
Yeah, I heard it's a real good book. A few months ago, one of my friends
was telling me about. It's a very good book. I've got it, but yeah.
But people like
I wish I could be half the woman that she was. She was so strong. She was a strong, beautiful woman. To be as strong as she was in the 60s and to stand up to the police and get in the police face the way she did. People don't even do that now. You know what I'm saying? It's like she was just amazing. That's where he got his strength from.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, people like Afeni, Asada, people like that is immortal, and they'll live forever. So, people will always be talking about Afeni.
Yeah, and I think when we look at this generation of hip-hop, some will try to dismiss us as being old heads. But I tell everybody, I tell the young people, I'm like, listen, you got to really understand the music from a perspective of where we were at that time and the artists that came through. We're talking about Biggie. We're talking about Paris. We're talking about the Conscious Daughters. We're talking about Richie Rich. We're talking about Tupac. We're talking about Nas. We're talking about Jay-Z. We're talking about O.C., we're talking about the Coup. Shout out Boots Riley. Rest in peace, Pam the Funkstress. We're talking about Spice One. I'm like, you're talking about artists that not only made music, but they released timeless staples of work that are in the pantheon of defining the culture of hip-hop from a revolutionary and musical level. These are not just albums. These are staples. And it's not like there are not any artists out there today that are making great albums, for the new generation, whether they get their respect or not. But it's the deliberate dumbing down of a lot of artists to try to play to a lesser thinking man's denominator of coherent thought and perspective. I'm going to just say it. It's disturbing. It is disturbing. It's beyond distressing when you hear some of the stuff that's out, because when you really listen to some of the music, it doesn't make sense in terms of the lyrics. It's like, I know we call it mumble rap, and some will say that, well, that's dismissive, that's derogatory. I'm like, okay, even if we take mumble rap out of the equation in terms of how their cadence and their flow sound, what are they actually saying that's really a substance?
Right.
What are we hearing?
Yeah, man. Majority of this music, man, is come and go. It only gonna last a few months, and nobody ain't gonna be listening to it no more, man. People like Tupac, he got songs, man, that's gonna be here forever, man. That's timeless. You got Keep Your Head Up, Dear Mama, Brenda's Got a Baby. And the list goes on, man. Till the end of time.
He's got a song for every situation. Any situation that comes up, you can find a Pac song to get you through that situation. These rappers now, they don't have no meaningful songs.
Yeah, Changes. Yeah, that's a timeless record. Yeah, man, that's the stuff that makes Tupac so iconic, man, and immortal. Songs like that. So Yeah, man, but yeah, to go back to what you're saying, man, it's definitely sad, man. All this music that's being made today, man, is like come and go. You know, it's only gonna last a few months, and people gonna move on. So I definitely agree with you.
Yeah, and of course, we're really keeping it, exclusively to Tupac. I mean, look, we got to go ahead and have fun with it in terms of reminiscing his memory. I'm like, look, and the youngins will say, well, yeah, how does he make songs? I'm like, listen, if you want to turn up, how do you want it? California Love. You want a thinking
and
song?
He would mix political messages in the song.
Yeah.
In the party song.
Like a deep, yeah, if you want a feel-good anthem, keep your head up. You want a thinking, reflective anthem, Changes. A song just about life till the end of time. You want some hardcore aggressive shit, Me and My Girlfriend. I'm like, the man could do anything in terms of what that pen would, help him express. I'm like you said, there was a Tupac song for every, feeling, for every emotion, for every situation.
Right.
One of my favorites is My Block. That's one of my favorites is My Block.
Off the Show soundtrack, 1995. Yes.
Right.
Yep. Yeah. Oh my God. I mean, and that's like
and Straight Ballin'.
Yeah. I mean, and we haven't even gotten into the Outlaws album that he, the album he did with the Outlaws. I mean, like,
yes, I remember I walked 5 miles to the music store to get that album on cassette. Tupac and the Outlaws.
My joint off of that has to be As the World Turns. I love that, As the World Turns. Man.
High Speed is my joint.
I like Thug Passion.
I mean,
yeah, man, that was
yeah. I mean, but the man, I think we're all in agreement. Where do y'all think that it changed in terms of where the climate of music, in terms of the substance? Where did it begin to go wrong in terms of where we started getting less substance and more?
When Puffy blew up. When Puffy blew up.
Man, that's a good question, man. Wow, that's a good one. Where did it go wrong?
The shiny suits.
When Snoop Dogg went in that, what's that girl, that video he did with them lollipops and them suckers and them dancing gummy bears?
the Katy Perry video.
Oh, the
California. What was the last year? What was the last year we had that had great music? Was it like 2003? Would y'all say?
Something like that.
I would probably say.
I give it 2003, 2004.
I'm
right
gonna
around
be generous.
there.
I'm gonna be generous, actually, and say probably about 2007.
2007.
Because 2007.
Who was
that
that
was around
about?
the time. Because that was around the time Kanye West came and he became the face of hip hop and then brought that whole weirdo type energy into the mix. Because they had that.
He was good at first, but then it's like
we
mental
didn't
breakdown
get,
or something and lost his mind.
We didn't get
the last
good
album he had was Graduation.
Graduation. Actually, I would say this: Dark Twisted Fantasy was great. It was different, but it was great. Listening to Dark Twisted Fantasy, that was a great album. And that was 2 years after that was like 2-3 years after his mother died. To me, for Kanye,
yeah, you know what? When his mother died, it seems like that's when he started to change. His mother dying was a big impact in his life, and that's when he started acting like a weirdo.
We all agree on that. We all agree. Yes, we all agree on that. But and it's crazy because when we look at the era, because some people will say when the proliferation of Southern rap came in, and I'm one of those people, I do not hate Southern rap, and I will say at one point I was a bit of an elitist, an East Coast elitist, and that was me being closed-minded. But when I really listened to a lot of these, like the trap rappers coming in, I realized these guys were coming from a level of what their expression of hip-hop was, and it wasn't bad. That was just how they expressed themselves. I mean, when you got guys like Jeezy and all them coming in, they made albums that were going to stand the test of time and still do 15 years later.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Yeah, one of my favorite rappers from the South. Urban Legend, one of my favorite albums. But I do got to keep it real with you. T.I. and Jeezy, Rick Ross, and people along those lines, yeah, they didn't mess up hip hop. People that's saying that is an idiot. But I got to keep it. I got to keep it a bug though. The dancing music that Atlanta was making did, that I was gonna say that earlier, but I didn't want to get anybody from Atlanta any feelings. But yeah, that dancing pop music from Atlanta did mess up the scene musically. If I'm keeping it a buck.
Let's go ahead and give clarification so people are not saying that we hate him. We want clarification for non-hate.
I won't even say this. I won't even put a particular blame on even a region. I would have to put it basically on incompetent people that's in charge of the music, that's running the music. Because you got people that got put in charge that don't understand the culture, but they only understand numbers. They understand what sells, but they don't understand artistic development. They don't understand the power of the streets. They only understand what's going to do things on billboards. So you have all the real people taken out of those positions, because during the mid-2000s, that's when the internet changed everything. All those guys got fired or laid off, and you start putting corporate shills in there that don't understand or care about hip-hop. They start signing the same exact people with the same exact sound.
And for a lot of people that want to try, and basically this is where we go into the snap rap area of hip hop during that time. This is where, and when I mention these names, this is not out of hate, and I want to put a disclaimer in front of it, because these are just the acts that came out during that time. They were synonymous with that particular genre of Atlanta, because we got to say this. One thing about it, and one thing too, AOD, as long as you have been doing what you've been doing and your exquisite and excellent brand of journalism, you've also seen marketing in terms of how, it's always, okay, this was what was done then, this is what comes next. So it became a never-ending race in terms of what everybody was trying to find for that next big act. Soulja Boy comes in 2006, really using the internet to his advantage. Was he lyrically superior? No, but he had something catchy. And he kind of brought to that snap rap era. This is where you would see the GS Boys, the Shop Boys. This is where you would see Shorty Low. This is where you would see a lot of these other rappers, in that era doing that type of music coming in. And it was something that was popular. It was catchy. Then you had a lot of other, even with the R&B, you were kind of going for more of that, I don't want to say trap R&B, but because it wasn't, but I mean, then you saw, like everybody was, and then you saw a lot of people trying to bring out, new artists in R&B. This is where Young Bird comes in, of course, Ray J, where they do the Sexy Canine. You just started seeing a lot of different types that not all of it was bad, but it wasn't necessarily that type of, it didn't hit in that.
The bar got set really low.
Thank you, King. Yes, exactly. Thank you. The bar was set low. And, I mean, a lot of those songs.
On the floor.
And when you listen to a lot of those songs, man, if you even try to play that in the club now, even the young heads are going to looking like, that's old. Like, none of those songs really had any really longevity. They were great for the time. Lord knows how many nights we turned up to the club in it. But, I mean, that was years ago. And it's like those songs didn't really have any life behind it.
And
songs like that come and go.
Especially in hip-hop time machine, like, what was the old 5 years ago, what felt like it came out 15 years ago.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I mean, there's certain songs like Jeezy's Bang, that's going to go off, that's still going to turn up the club years later, because that's a classic, that was off of a classic album. But when you hear certain songs like Soulja Boy's Superman at Ho, I'm like, okay. I'm like, it doesn't carry well. Soldier may hear this and want to start screaming on us, and that's perfectly fine. We'll scream back, But it's like it didn't carry well. It carried for its time. It did what it was with a younger audience, but it's like, that came out in 2000. Yeah, and this is the thing. That record came out in 2006. Jeezy's album came out in 2005. So you're looking at a 1-year difference. So you're still looking at all the kids that were there at that time who would, so even if they're 10 years old then, they would be 25 now. If they were 15 then, they'd be 30 now. And I can tell you whose album they're probably still going to listen to. Go Team Snow, CTE all day. That's my people. Drops Mike. but
yeah, man. But look, we got about 3 more minutes to spare, man. I mean, this has been an enjoyous show right here. We reminiscing on the great times of Tupac Shakur, how impactful he was, and how much of a trendsetter. Even he set the bar to where cats are still trying to compete with him, and people act like he's a competing figure right now, and he's been going for 24 years. That go to show you the bar that he set.
And I got
man, been going 24 years, and people still competing with him. Crazy.
And of course, for the 2 guests that we have, I got to first, of course, shout out, LD for the success you have had, for you being the individual of impeccable credentials, for being someone whose credibility is through the roof, for being instrumental in being a griot, a repository, a curator of one of the all-time legends. You do his legacy justice. And we have to say thank you so much for your contribution and what you will continue to do. And Ms. Lady, we ain't forgot about you either. For what you've done with your foundation to help so many people, because I remember we chopped it up about, your autism foundation and what you have done to really bring attention to it, to let people know, and to take away that stigma and to let the inner genius be shown of people who have it, that they may be different in how they perceive, but their genius is otherworldly and outstanding in how they express themselves, and they are people just like us who need to let that creativity be shown. And you, through your foundation, have been so pivotal in letting people know the facts, the fiction, and overall encompassing a culture of caring, compassion, and communication. We cannot thank you enough for what you've done with yours.
Well, thank you. Yeah, actually, Tupac has an autistic cousin. Aunt Glo has a son, Greg, that's autistic. And he's 50, 51 now. That's why what we do with our Spark the Brain is we pick things that have to do with Pac. And so with Pac having an autistic cousin, Naughty by Nature supports Nassan's Place in Newark, New Jersey, and I've seen them supporting it. So that's where I picked up with Greg, being autistic, and I picked Nassan's Place, and we took a check there for $2,500. So we've been doing stuff like that. We just came back from Newark last week. We saw Fatal's Girls. We were checking up on them, and we went and paid our respects at Fatal's grave. So we've been doing stuff like that. Like I said, we've been helping Matulu. We've been doing lots of different things, and we want it to grow so that we can continue to help more people. And there's the school in Oakland, the Rose That Grew from Concrete School. We want to do stuff with that. Things that revolve around Pac. That's what we want to continue to do.
And both of you have honored his legacy with such passion, such commitment, such love, and such sincerity and genuine, service to others, which is, at the end, what his whole essence, embodied. Pac loved everyone. Pac was down with who was down with him, no matter what color you were. He wanted to see us all come together as a people, and you all are carrying on his legacy in such a, such a distinguished fashion. And us at Off the Cuff, we are humbled, we are appreciative, we love you. We appreciate you so much for your friendship and your time and your, you sharing your passions with us.
Well, thank you.
Right.
Yeah, big salute to y'all, man. I mean...
Yeah, I appreciate that a lot, man. Thank you so much for saying that, man. I appreciate that a lot. No words can explain how much I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, we wanted to invite you, we wanted to do the journalist versus journalist. We see how other vultures are doing the same thing. Like, they're inviting each other on each other's show to talk about our shit. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do the same. And they getting clout off us. So I'm like, you know what? We got to show that love to people that's coming out there and putting in the groundwork like us. And because we now understand, we have an equal understanding on how hard the job can be at times.
Yeah.
So we in the same thing together. We ain't trying to beef with nobody. That's what they want to do anyway. They want to put content creators against each other because they see that, a lot of people see that's the easy way of getting clout. We above that.
Pretty much,
even
beefing.
I'm going to say this before I leave, because even in one of the YouTube comments, they actually tried to say that we was throwing shade at y'all. I'm like, no, Art of DIalouge is a homie. You ain't trying to pull no culture vulture stuff on us. What you trying to be?
For real? Somebody in the comments?
Yeah, because they made it like, we were jealous of Art of DIalouge for sharing a certain, breaking a certain story, with the Snoop Dogg thing, with the Snoop Dogg diss record thing. I'm like, nah, that's a homie. Y'all ain't pulling no pilgrim shit on us.
Yeah, it must be a troll or something. Like I said, man, I've been
niggas is
following
crazy.
y'all. I've been following y'all. I found out about y'all about probably like 3 or 4 years ago. I found out about y'all from Blog Talk Radio, and I was listening to y'all interviews. So, man, y'all was good as hell, man.
Appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
Appreciate it,
man.
That's how I have a lot more to come, man. Like, who knows? If we can work it together, who knows? We might could get the entire Outlaws on the whole show with me and you hosted and T-Mac. We can get we get the whole circle together.
Right. I mean, hey, I'm down, man. Let's get it popping, man. We definitely got to work. Because like I said, man, I've been rocking with y'all content for about 3 to 4 years. I remember one day I was, like, searching on the internet for, like, some untold Tupac stories, just some new Tupac content. And I was on Blog Talk Radio. And that's when I came across y'all. And I was listening to a lot of y'all interviews. I spent, like, hours just going through y'all interviews that was, like, Tupac related. So I definitely rock with y'all content. And then I got a lot of respect for y'all platform and y'all interviews, man.
Man, it's likewise with us, brother. Like, you protected his legacy in ways where a lot of people aren't really doing it. So your channel is definitely needed.
Yeah.
Right. Appreciate that, man. That means a lot, man.
So let me go ahead and bail up out of here and talk some smack to these old Saudi Rocket fans because my Lakers done dominated them last night.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Well, much love and respect to you guys, and thanks for having us on.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having us on, man. And y'all know where to find me, man. Get at me anytime, man. And hit me up. We can do some stuff in the future. You already know, man. Just get at me.
No doubt, my brother. Y'all be safe.
All right.
All right. Yes, indeed.
You as well.
All righty.